Companies that are simply reacting to the market without having a pricing strategy are ultimately doomed to fail.
For many companies, it's eat or be eaten.
In distribution, we're seeing a lot of changing market dynamics, and one of them is the role of the salesperson has changed.
The most important thing about pricing is to have a structure.
Pricing is very simply the most powerful tool to increase profit. As we look across the landscape of distribution businesses, we see everybody's more or less working the same amount, doing the same types of activities, serving their customers. The big difference, however, is that some distributors are turning in average performance, 4% operating profit on sales, while their more astute, more dedicated and focused counterparts, working the same amount of time, doing the same types of activities, are delivering profitability that's 2, 3, even 4 times that. So the big question for a distributor is not how hard you're going to work, it's what you're going to get paid for it. I've been on a mission to fix pricing in industrial B2B for 30 years. Too often in the past, sellers were just doing milk runs. They had a specified list of accounts, usually geographically based, and they just call people up on a regular basis, chit-chat, try to shoot the breeze with them, hopefully build a stronger business relationship. In the old days, that might have cut it. But today, what we're seeing is that buyers expect much more focused conversations. That is, they want to know, how can a seller help to improve their processes? How can they improve their business outcomes, their financial outcomes?
At SPARXiQ, our goal is to help our customers profitably grow their business, whether it's through pricing analytics, sales analytics, buy-side analytics, or cost to serve. One of the big concepts that a lot of companies don't get is that it's a journey. It's not a one-time event, and it really requires sustained attention and focus to be successful. Having a good matrix in place takes the guesswork out of pricing, and it eliminates the need for salespeople to have to do on-the-fly manual pricing.
Pricing strategies are absolutely vital to the success of any wholesale distribution company.
I've been consulting since 1987, and pricing is really, really important. What happens is customer calls up, says your price is too high. Well-intentioned inside salesperson changes the customer multiplier in your pricing grid, but not only did they lower the price on that, assuming it was even truly not market price, but they change it for every other thing from that supplier. So now all of a sudden my margin's less on that customer because somebody thought they were doing one thing, but they didn't know how to do it right. Most people don't spend the time to get good at knowing market pricing. If I want to do strategic pricing, I have to have expertise at knowing what is market price, because market price changes all the time. So when you look at a company that has really good strategic pricing, there's probably 100 or 200, depending on the size of the company, there's 100 or 200 prices that change every month, maybe only by a couple pennies, but the other thing is that sometimes price goes up, sometimes price goes down, because a lot of it depends on its supply and demand. You know, it's just, if there's a lot of supply, margins are down. If there's no supply, margins get really high. So being able to sense the market and make those adjustments is really, really key.
Pricing is an investment in yourself. When you price well, you run your company well. Pricing separates good companies from great companies. Pricing is a competitive advantage.
The greatest value in having a pricing strategy is in what you can offer your customer in terms of the solution to their problems, and also what you can offer your employees in terms of the reason to stay with your company. We spend a lot of time trying to know our customer database, look at the data analytics, and make sure that the sales leaders understand they have content to communicate what Turtle is, what Turtle's doing, what are all the services Turtle offers to every one of their customers. And they're seeing growth in sales. I mean, our backlog is triple the size that it normally is, principally because we're selling more of what Turtle does through the use of these technology-based platform and connections with our customers.
Sales analytics are particularly important for distributors today because they need to be highly effective and efficient with their teams. And part of that is making sure that their sales reps aren't wasting time on the wrong accounts and that they are spending time with the accounts that mean the most and have the most opportunity for growth.
What analytics does is it enables sellers to understand at a much more granular level what are the opportunities to improve the performance of our customers. What are the areas where if we make a product substitution, for example, we might be able to help them reduce the amount of time it takes to accomplish one of their business processes. Or another example would be understanding what are the legacy products that a customer has been buying that should be replaced by next-gen products with greater efficiency, greater longevity, a lot of these other types of benefits. So with analytics, what we do is at scale, most importantly at scale, we enable sellers to understand what's the current state, what's the desired future state, and how do we really get focused in these conversations. One of the biggest costs of the Wild West approach to selling is that we turn our sales teams into what I call indiscriminate order takers. That is, they view all customers, all markets as being equal. Now, we know from profitability and growth analyses that vertical markets that we sell into, those different types of customers having different uses of our product, even though they're buying similarly, in some cases not, they have very different growth prospects and profitability characteristics. Not all revenue dollars convert equally into profit, particularly net profit, not gross profit. So what that means is that instead of having a scattershot approach to calling on customers, we really want to overweight those customers and markets that have exceptional growth and capacity to convert gross profit dollars into operating profit dollars. That's where we want to focus our conversations. So if a distributor really wants to become an elite performer, not only do they have to master the 4 points on the profit diamond, their sell-side pricing, their sales mix and share of wallet, their purchasing terms of trade from their vendors, and their service model and cost to serve, they also have to be serving the right customers and focusing those efforts of their sales team on the markets of exceptional growth and profitability. It's just like finance portfolio theory. Instead of just going out randomly and buying a cross-section of stocks, focus on the verticals that have exceptional growth prospects and profitability. When you start to recast the portfolio, that is the portfolio of time, how sellers spend their time talking to whom about what, that's when you can start to convert your sales team from being indiscriminate order takers into what we call strategic market makers. The consequences are huge. We know from analyzing the data that two different customer segments with similar gross margin levels will have radically different growth prospects, how quickly they grow each year. And secondly, their ability to convert sales dollars into net profit dollars. Once we start to understand the dynamics of growth and profitability, we can move beyond the roulette wheel of Wild West selling into a much more strategic and prescriptive approach to how our sellers spend their time. So this is one of the great blue ocean's opportunities, really, is to help distributors move away from the red oceans that are defined by slow growth and ruthless competition into blue oceans, markets of growth and profitability. This is one of the long-term goals for distributors as they succeed in investing in their business transformation. There's really two key areas where pricing makes a difference. The first is financial. We know that distribution is a very thin margin business, typically with single-digit operating profit. So a company that has Wild West approaches to pricing, that hasn't focused on the strategy, the analytics, the tools, the training, the technology of optimized pricing, is typically leaving 2 to 4 margin points on the table. In a 4% business, that's the average operating profit. 2 to 4 points is a lot, 50 to 100% or more. So getting pricing right can quickly transform a distributor from being mediocre or average into one of the elite tiers of performance. The second key reason why strategic pricing is important is that it builds the disciplines and the change management processes to improve the business in a bigger sense. So when sales teams work to more carefully segment their customers, to more carefully segment how they allocate sales resources and how they extract pricing and profit from the business, they're building core disciplines that will help them to sell more effectively, drive greater product mix, better customer mix, and ultimately build a transformed version of the business. The reality for sellers today is when they sell to dozens or hundreds of customers, they've got thousands of products, that's creating tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of potential customer product combinations.
Somebody that buys $500,000 worth of material versus say $50 million worth of material, their pricing is obviously going to be different.
It's really unfair to expect that salespeople will know the price for tens of thousands of products sold in lots of different situations.
It's very hard in that context for sellers to really understand, for each of their dozens or even hundreds of accounts that they serve, what are the opportunities for growth in those accounts? What is the health of that customer relationship? Should we be nurturing a particular relationship with a particular area of application in our business? And fundamentally, without data, sellers are left to guess at these things. And once in a while, they may succeed, what we call a random act of excellence. However, that's not scalable, and it's not going to create a consistent customer experience. So analytics is really what helps sellers to be able to see through the complexity of the markets that they serve and have the right conversations at the right time with the right customer.